Welcome to the Salem Night Stories, where I share horror stories daily. If you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more. Now let's get into tonight's story. Let me start by saying I'm not an idiot. I know hitchhiking is dangerous. I know it's reckless, especially when you're a woman traveling solo. But at the time, I was 23, broke, and desperate. Logic loses a lot of its weight when you're standing on the shoulder of a rural highway with a dead phone, an empty gas can, and $20 to your name. It was supposed to be a quick ride. My car ran out of gas about 8 miles outside a town called Dry Creek, population maybe 200. I'd been trying to make it to a friend's place 2 towns over. Thought I could coast the last stretch. Stupid, I know. The sun was setting, and the road was silent except for the occasional truck roaring by. I held out my thumb, got ignored 3 times, and then finally a dusty, beat-up Dodge pickup pulled to the side. It creaked when the driver leaned over and rolled down the passenger window. "You need a lift?" he asked. He looked ordinary, middle-aged, plaid shirt, greasy baseball cap, worn face like he worked outdoors. Didn't seem threatening. Just a tired guy with a kind enough smile. "Yeah," I said, "ran out of gas." He nodded. "Town's not far. Hop in." The inside of the truck smelled like chewing tobacco and pine air freshener. A dog, some big shepherd mix, lay asleep in the back seat, tail thumping, once when I got in. That made me feel better. Bad people don't usually have sweet dogs, right? We drove in silence for a bit. The man asked basic stuff, like my name, which I lied about. Where I was headed, I gave a vague answer, and if I lived nearby, I said yes. He didn't press, just nodded and kept his eyes on the road. Then, about 5 minutes in, he missed the turn into Dry Creek. I said, sitting up straighter. "You missed the turn." He didn't slow down. "Oh, I know," he said. "Just taking a shortcut." My stomach clenched. "What kind of shortcut?" "The gas station's back that way." He didn't answer. I turned to look behind us. The town, the lights gone. Nothing but trees and dusk now. I glanced at his dashboard. No phone mount, no GPS. Just a cassette player, a half-finished cup of coffee, and a cracked Jesus figurine on the dash. I reached for the door handle. He hit the lock button. Click. "The fuck are you doing?" I snapped. He smiled, not the friendly smile from earlier. This one was tight, pulled at the corners like it physically hurt him to do it. "Relax," he said. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt you." I yanked at the lock. Nothing. He must have disabled the manual override. "Let me out. Now." He didn't say a word, just kept driving. The truck turned onto a dirt road I hadn't even seen. No signs, no markers, just a gap in the trees that swallowed us whole. "Where are we going?" My voice came out smaller than I wanted. He didn't answer. The truck bounced over potholes and rocks. Branches scraped the sides like fingernails on metal. Then I saw it, a cabin. Small, dark, set back in a clearing you'd never find unless you knew it was there. He killed the engine. "Get out." "No." He reached behind him and pulled something from under his seat. A knife. Not huge, just a folding blade, worn from use. He said, "Get out." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely open the door. The dog jumped out behind me, circling, watching. He came around the truck, grabbed my arm, not rough but firm. Like he'd done this before. Inside, now. I thought about running, but the woods were thick. It was almost dark and I had no idea where I was. He was between me and the truck. The knife was still in his hand. He pushed me toward the cabin door. It opened into a single room. Dim. Smelled like mildew and old smoke. And then I saw them 2 girls, huddled on a stained mattress in the corner. One looked maybe 17. The other, older, had cuts on her arms. They stared at me with hollow eyes. He shoved me toward them, locked the door behind us, and sat down in a chair by the window. Every creak of the floorboards made my chest tighten. The dog paced the room, sniffing at us, waiting. Over the next 2 days, I learned a few things. 1, the man's name was Harold. At least that's what the girls said. He never introduced himself. 2, he kept the place stocked with canned food, bottled water, and medical supplies, which meant he planned for people to stay a while. 3, he never touched us. Not in the way you're probably thinking, but that almost made it worse. It wasn't about sex. It was about control, about keeping us trapped, dependent, scared. 4, there were rules. We weren't allowed to speak when he was in the room, we weren't allowed near the windows, and we never, ever touched the door. The escape came by accident. On the 3rd day, Harold cut himself while opening a can. Badly. Blood everywhere. He panicked. I saw it in his eyes. He hadn't planned for him to get hurt. He yelled at us to stay put and left the cabin, probably to get help or supplies. The dog followed. The door, he forgot to lock it. The moment the truck rumbled out of earshot, we moved. The girl with the cuts, her name was Jess, she tried the door. It creaked open. None of us spoke. We just ran. The woods were a maze. We stayed together at first, but the terrain split us. I tripped over a log, tore my knee open, but kept going. Every snap of a twig sounded like footsteps. Every breath felt stolen. After what felt like hours, I found a road, a real one. I stumbled into the middle of it, covered in mud and blood, and flagged down a semi. The driver took one look at me and slammed the brakes. I broke down, sobbing in his cab. Couldn't even form words. Just begged him not to stop until we hit the next town. The police found the cabin 2 days later. It was empty. Harold was gone. So was the dog. So were the other girls. But they found blood, lots of it. Some on the mattress I slept on, some on the walls. And in the woods behind the cabin, a shallow grave. They wouldn't tell me who was in it. Said they were still identifying remains. I gave my statement. Over and over. Sat through sketches, lineup photos, maps. They never found him. It's been 3 years. I don't hitchhike anymore. I don't drive alone either. I keep my tank full and my phone charged. I keep a knife under my seat and mace in my purse. Sometimes I still wake up hearing the dog growling, seeing those empty eyes, watching me in the dark. They never found Jess or the other girl. Sometimes I see trucks on the highway that look just like his. My chest locks up every time. I know he's still out there, looking for the next one. So if you're ever stranded on a road and a dusty pickup pulls over, don't get in. Update. 6 months later, I wasn't going to post this. I really wasn't. But something happened yesterday and now I can't sleep. I don't know what it means, but I need someone, anyone, to hear it. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name, printed in block letters. Inside was a photo. It was me, taken from behind as I was walking into the grocery store 2 days ago. I'm in my usual jacket. You can see the license plate of my car. And in the corner is a paw print, smudged in dirt. There was a note on the back. Nice to see you again, darling. Miss me? I called the police. They're looking into it. But deep down, I already know. He's still out there. And this time he wants me back. If you ever find yourself stranded on a dark road, remember this story and don't hitchhike alone. Thanks for listening, Salem Night fans. Before you turn out the lights, do one thing for me. Hit like, subscribe, and stay close. Because out here, sometimes it's not the road that's empty.